Hey guys, welcome to another amazing episode of The Amanda Show. My name is Amanda Akalonu, and on this show, as always, we are going to be discussing important news stories that are coming out of Africa this week. Now, two or 3 weeks ago on this show, I mentioned how some government officials in the Nigerian government were trying to strangulate the Dangote refinery. In fact, almost make Dangote go bankrupt. That story is not over. Well, this week we had another news story come out about how external players are still trying to stifle and frustrate the Dangote refinery, effectively making him bankrupt. So I want to discuss this and also shed light on what this means for the broader um, goal of pulling Africa out of poverty. Because if they are doing like this with Dangote refinery, imagine how much more in other areas of Africa's economy, and how much it will even frustrate people like us who are trying to build this amazing continent. So what happened this week is that an external NGO that is based in London effectively tried to bribe a Nigerian journalist to write a smear piece against the Dangote refinery to give the Nigerian government an excuse to turn off the refinery and put an end to it. We are going to discuss that. Then, from what's going on in the Dangote refinery, we move over to Kenya again. Also, this week, a news came out that they are intending to protest in Kenya, the airline regulators, all those things that have to do with the aviation industry in Kenya. The union is leading a protest in Kenya against the deal between the Kenyan government and the Adani group. So the Adani group is an Indian multinational corporation, and they got into a deal with Kenya's government to run the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for 30 years. I've looked at some of the information that have come out of the proposal, but I want to say here that I have not seen the full proposal. So anything I'm going to be discussing in that segment is just based on the information, trickle of information here and there that I have come across. Well, based on what I have seen, I don't know how this is in the interest of Kenya, but we'll discuss that in the second segment. And finally, in the third segment, news came out from African intelligence. I believe it's African intelligence or Africa Intel. Now, it's a French run media outlet that is focused on France's foreign policy with Africa. News came out that from that publication that France is looking to set up a military base in Madagascar. In that segment where we're discussing the new military base that France is hoping to set up in Madagascar, I also saw some weeks ago that France is in, because of the defeat they have suffered in Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, and some other places across Africa. They are now looking at implementing the France Africa Command, just like the US Africa Command. But one of the things that the France Africa Command is going to focus on is propaganda. We'll discuss that in the third segment of the show. Thank you for joining me today. And as always, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and share this video with your friends so that we reach more people across Africa as we come together to build Africa and to transform the story of this amazing continent. Thank you for joining me today. Let's get into the stories. Hmm. These people are not going to let the Dangote refinery rest. They are going to so hit that refinery until they frustrate it out of the market, but we are not going to allow it. Just as we're dealing with the Nigerian government and the Nigerian official who came out to say that Dangote is a monopoly and is trying to um, is responsible for producing substandard fuel in Nigeria. Just as we're dealing with that issue, a Nigerian journalist, his name is David Hundenyi. Now, David Hundenyi is a very prominent Nigerian journalist, he's an investigative journalist, and a lot of stories that have shaken up not just the country but the continent at large. He's responsible for reporting those stories. Now, this week, I follow him on Twitter. This week, I just saw a tweet from him. So apparently, an NGO, Dialogue Earth, that's the name of the NGO, is had attempted to bribe him to pay him $500 to write a smear piece against the Dangote refinery. Now, the purpose of when I looked at the brief, because he didn't just say it, he actually posted evidence for us to look at. Now, the purpose of that brief is to badmouth Dangote refinery and say that it is bad for the environment and how it's going to be against Nigerians' climate commitment and all of those blah 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 blah. And as one of the things he mentioned when about the Dialogue Earth is that it's funded by international heavyweights like the Ford Foundation and Climate Works, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's Climate Works. Now, interestingly, this Climate Works has been blacklisted in India. For what purpose? For funding organizations that are working against India's national interest. This is the same Climate Works that is funding Dialogue Earth that tried to pay David Hundening $500 to write a smear piece against the Dangote refinery. And this Dialogue Earth NGO is based in London. So now you can see London is there. Ford Foundation, United States is there. So these are external players. My question now is, why are they trying to frustrate Dangote refinery? Whenever people say that Africa is poor, is left poor on purpose, people try to gaslight us and say, no, Africa is not left poor on purpose. Africa is poor because our system is substandard. Africa is poor because of this and that and that. But these are the kind of things that you see. This tell me why a London-based NGO funded by American interests is attempting to pay a Nigerian journalist to speak bad against the Nigerian business, and this Nigerian business clearly works in the interest of Nigeria's economy. Why is it that these external players will not let us be? So these past weeks, all these things have been unfolding. It's dawned on me very clearly why this is the reason why Nigeria has not had a working refinery since independence. This is very clearly because I was listening to an interview with the former president of Nigeria, who I think is the best president to date, President Olusegun Obasanjo, and he said that in that interview he made mention about how he tried to convince Shell and work with Shell to operate Nigeria's refinery so that we can process our oil in the country, then export finished processed products. But in the interview, he said Shell gave five excuses why they couldn't give the blah blah blah, so many excuses. But bottom line is Shell intentionally didn't come into the market to play. Now that the Nigerian interest, I said, fine, if these outsiders like Shell, Chevron, and the rest of them are not going to operate this refinery, and if NNPC, Nigeria's Petroleum Corporation, is not going to operate the refinery, let a private interest come in to take that headache off the government. And now that he has committed $20 billion investment, they've been frustrating it. And this week also, OPEC released a report stating how the Dangote refinery is going to disrupt Europe's oil sector. And not just will, it has already started disrupting Europe's oil sector. So these are the kind of things that I'm seeing that is very clear to me why they don't want the refinery to work. Because if this Dangote refinery should work, it's not only going to relieve us, Nigeria, of buying processed fuel, like buying petroleum products, processed petroleum products with dollar. It's going to release our dependence on dollar. So we can use our dollar reserves to do other things for the benefit of the countries because obviously we are going to be buying our fuel from Dangote and our petroleum products in general from Dangote with our local currency. But not just that, but also in West Africa. Remember that this Dangote refinery is the biggest refinery in this between Africa, Middle East, and Europe. It's the biggest refinery. Do you understand? In fact, the second refinery after it is doing half of what the Dangote refinery at full capacity is going to be doing. And that refinery, I believe, is in the Netherlands. So this is why they're frustrated because if the Dangote refinery should work, it will kick them out of business. It will disturb the oil sector because now Dangote is likely going to supply oil not just to Nigeria but to other West African nations, which is going to help our economies grow. If we can have dependable oil from dependable oh yeah if dependable petrol from the Dangote refinery, we can be assured that we have energy, and with our access to this cheap energy because it's coming in our local currency, with our access to this cheap energy, it's going to encourage economic growth in the country. But no, these outsiders will not let it be. So they thought of the genius idea to bribe a Nigerian journalist because if it's in a Nigerian voice, if it's with a prominent journalist, you can say, oh, okay, if the so-called journalists are saying this thing, that means it's bad. And another thing is the pretext of this report of this article that was supposed to be written by David Hundening is supposed to give the Nigerian government a reason to say, all right, this Dangote refinery should not work because now it's going to be affecting the climate, it's going to be disturbing energy transition, blah, 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 blah. This week also I saw another report. This one was from Bloomberg. And two words that were used in that headline that caught my attention is influence and disruptor. Influence meaning that once the Dangote refinery is beginning to work, other African countries can say, oh, this thing is possible. And then they will stake their claim, maybe influence them to begin to get their own refineries up and running. And disruptor because it's going to affect Europe's energy sector and Europe's oil sector. Now let me dive into what I think. Number one, I do not care about Europe's energy sector. I do not care about Europe's economy. The same way, since centuries, Europe has not cared about Nigeria's economy or Africa's economy or Africa's energy sector. It is up to the Europeans to look for how they can be competitive in the market. And it's up to Nigerians and Africans to look for how they're going to be competitive in the market and also ensure Nigeria and Africa's economic growth. So my allegiance is not to Europe, it's to Nigeria and to Africa. So if Dangote's refinery working, running at maximum capacity and functioning very well means that Nigeria is going to enjoy economic prosperity. West Africa is going to have access to cheaper oil and clean oil because the oil that we've been getting from Europe has been blended with nonsense. It's they call it dirty oil. So that is the oil that Europe has been giving to Africa for centuries. That's why our cars are always having issues because they've been giving us dirty oil. Do you get me? So, by the way, I'm saying that because of several reports I have seen. So, it is in my interest to make sure Dangote Refinery is working. And if Dangote Refinery works to give Nigerians jobs, to improve the Nigeria's economy, to make energy accessible and cheap for Nigerians so that other businesses and economic activities in Nigeria can keep running, that's my business. And if that thing working is to the detriment of Europe's oil sector, it is not my headache. Neither should it be your headache. In that instance, Europe should look for sensible ways to be more competitive. Secondly, I want to get into this issue of climate change and energy transition that these Westerners have been giving Africa a headache over for several decades now. Number one, I'm not saying that the whole climate change, blah, 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 is a problem or not. That's not what this conversation I want to have here today. The conversation I want to have is Africa, it is more important for us to come out of poverty. That is the existential threat to Africa, not climate change. It is not climate change. It is not energy transition. They say fossil fuels, oh, don't use fossil fuels. Okay, no problem. They should start it. Because I just, sometime last month in July, I saw an infographic. Apparently, the United States is responsible for producing more oil, more crude oil and processed oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia. The United States is producing more crude oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia. Why are they not giving the United States headache over this thing? Why are they not paying American journalists to write smear pieces against all the refineries in the United States? Why are they not doing that? It's Africa. Listen, let me tell you in case you don't know. If we look through history in Europe, in the United States, in China, one thing that we can see, one uniting thread between all these economies, is that the reason they were able to become rich and prosperous is because they industrialized. And they industrialized with fossil fuels. They did not industrialize with solar energy. They don't run their, even as we speak, they don't run their industries with windmill. So why is it Africa that is expected to experiment with this new thing? I don't understand. Why is it Africa now? It's okay. You pesky Africans try to industrialize with windmills and solar energy. Then why is it us? Let us use the parts that they used. That way we have seen it how many times through history we've seen it works. Let us use the part they have used. Then they can be trying to now be updating their industries with their windmills and their solar and all this energy transition thing. Let them now try to update their industries with those things. Then when we get to where they are, we can now learn from them the mistakes they made. We cannot use Africa to experiment this thing because it's risky. Trying to use Africa to experiment, industrializing and becoming rich with green energy and all this environmentally friendly energy, it is a risky gamble. We are not taking it. What I'm advocating is that Africa should use all forms of energy available to it. We are not going to kick out fossil fuels because Europe said fossil fuels is bad. It's bad. They should stop using it. They should stop. They should because if we look, Africa has impacted the least. Africa has the least impact on the whole climate change something and the whole carbon footprint. Africa has the least impact. So why should we carry again? Why should we carry the headache of the world? Why should we be left to carry that bag? This is the same thing that happened in all the other times the rest of the world was moving. This is the same thing. Africa will carry the bag. We leave Africa carrying the bag while we have it, the good life. No, we have seen the good life you people have in your countries. We like the way it looks, and we want to have that too. And we would have that using the same model that you people used. You can now transition. Then once we get to where you are, we can begin to think about teaching fossil fuels. Let me even ask. I want to know how serious they are. You know what? Let's see how serious they are. United States, you say, oh, we are so, and Ford Foundation, all these NGOs, they should come out and say, oh, we are so committed to the environment. We are so committed to reducing our carbon footprint that we're not going to refine our oil anymore in the United States. Dangote Refinery, refine the oil for us and send it to us in the United States. I would take them seriously when Norway comes out to tell us that, oh, they are so committed to the green energy, they are so committed to reducing their carbon footprint, and we are so against climate change. We are no longer going to refine our oil. Africa refine the oil and send to Norway. Europe will come out together, the EU will come out collectively and say, oh, this energy, this fossil fuels is so bad, it's so dirty. Africa, refine the oil and send us refined product. We will be importing refined oil. When they do that, I will take them seriously. When they do that, I will take them seriously. But until then, nobody, because a very Africa has paid a painful price for the development of the whole world. For us to continue that same stupidity now, no, we will not do it. We will not do it. So I have a message to all this, and I'm saying, okay, before I move to my message, I want to mention this now clearly that you guys who are watching, I believe that we're all coming together who are on this, who are watching this show and who are subscribed to this channel. We're all coming here because we are concerned about the growth of Africa, and we're committed. We are committed to pulling Africa out of poverty and developing this continent. So I want you to understand that the way they are fighting Dangote refinery, they will fight us too. Anything that we want to do that we say enough, Africa is no longer going to be the place to just take raw materials and export, right? Africa is going to be the place to process our raw materials, our resources, and export finished products. I want you to understand that they will fight us. We are going to receive severe antagonism from outsiders and even internal players who are working for the interests of external players. So this thing with Dangote is not just going to be just Dangote. No, it's going to be all of us. So I want you to begin to arrange your mind right now to be ready for the fight, because the fight will come. Don't think that they are done with Dangote, because first of all, they use the Nigerian government. Nigerian government refuse to provide Dangote refinery with crude oil. Yet Nigeria is the number one producer of crude oil in Africa. Instead, Dangote had to go to Libya. In fact, I even saw some weeks ago that Libya said they are not giving Dangote crude oil. I'm telling you, Dangote intended to go to Libya to get it. Libya said they are not giving Dangote crude oil, that they've not had that conversation with Dangote. Angola, Dangote is looking to get crude oil from Angola. Dangote currently is importing crude oil from the United States. Dangote is importing crude oil from Brazil. Yet, Nigeria is Africa's number one producer of crude oil. If you say, okay, we don't want to give to Dangote, I believe Dangote refinery is 800,000, but I'm not sure. I'll get that figure. But regardless of how much it is, Nigeria produces more crude oil a day than Dangote refinery needs. So even if you give Dangote all he needs to run, Nigeria still has hundreds of thousands of barrels left over. Hundreds of thousands of barrels left over that we can import and give to other people. So we can export and give to other people. But no, and Dangote is not getting crude oil from Nigeria. No, Dangote, a government official came out to say Dangote is producing substandard oil, that is dirty oil. Meanwhile, those people a lot of reports have shown us that they are those people who have given us dirty oil. They have not called them out. You are seeing that now. We are seeing NGOs trying to fund Nigerian journalists to speak bad against Dangote refinery, so that the government can use that as a pretext to put an end to the refinery. And this is not going to be the end. Oh. We are still going to see more attacks against this same refinery. Why? Because in some people's I'm looking for a very nice word. In some people's superior minds, Africa is supposed to be just for getting raw material and nothing more. But we are going to shock them. We are going to shock them. And I want you to also be stirred up, to be inspired to fight. And fighting is not just about, it's not going out to punch people in the face. That's not the fight I mean. The fight I mean is when they hit you, don't, you should come back, because many businesses in Africa, this is what we suffer. Government policies that is punishing our group for the interest of external players. This is what we suffer. So when you come out to fight, you come out to fight that, okay, if they push me down today, I'm not going to throw in the towel and say I'm done. No, I will come out again tomorrow. We are going to fight until we pull Africa out of poverty, because we refuse to be the place where these people just come to take raw materials and go. We refuse that. That is not Africa. That is not my Africa. Settle that in your mind. That is not my Africa. That is not your Africa. Settle that in your mind. They should bring the heat, they should bring the fight, we are ready. They should bring all they can throw, we are ready. But I'm telling you that it doesn't matter what outsiders think. It doesn't matter what they try to do. What matters is what we decide. If Africa will say, all right, yes, we'll continue the business as usual, we'll continue the status quo and just be where you take raw materials that benefits all of you and just a handful of us, blah blah blah. If you say that's what will happen, that is what will happen. But if we say no, we are going to take the wealth and the prosperity of Africa into our hands. We are going to take the growth and the development of Africa into our hands. We are going to be responsible. Count yourself in it, in the solution. We are going to be responsible for Africa's growth. If you take that stance and you say yes, regardless of how much you fight us, regardless of how much you try to smear us, regardless of how much you try to frustrate our businesses, we will keep coming back and coming back and coming back. If we take that stance, I can tell you we are going to win, because there are too many of us and there are too few of them. Do you understand me? So this thing we are saying with Dangote, don't be scared. This thing we are saying with Dangote, don't just say, oh, bad government. Yes, I need you to understand that the external players that are pulling the strings, that's what is going on. But we are going to win. Do you hear me? We are going to win. United States is never going to tell Nigeria to refine its crude oil and export refined petroleum products to the United States. Norway is not, because I'm mentioning Norway because Norway has crude oil. Norway is never going to tell Nigeria to refine crude oil for Norway and export finished products so that Norway can import. Europe will never tell Nigeria or the Dangote Refinery to refine crude oil for it and export petroleum products to Europe so that Europe will buy. Asia will not do the same thing. Nigeria should not do that. Nigeria, this Dangote Refinery will work. This Dangote Refinery will work at maximum capacity for the interest of Nigeria, West Africa, and Africa at large. Those who don't like it, they should get out. Like I said before, my interest is for the prosperity of Nigeria, is for the prosperity of Africa. And one of the ways to ensure that prosperity is by the Dangote refinery working at maximum capacity. And if that is to the detriment of Europe's oil sector, I don't give a fuck. Let me know what you think. This Dangote refinery, I never thought I was going to come back to this conversation, but here we are. Everybody's fighting it. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends and family so that we can reach more people across the continent as we are committed to transforming the story of Africa. So for our second conversation today, President William Ruto in Kenya has agreed to a proposal from the Adani group. India is an Indian multinational corporation. So they agreed that the Adani group is going to manage the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport for 30 years. Then after which it will come back to the Kenyan government or the Kenyan people. First things first, I want to clearly state here that I have not seen the full proposal. I've looked for it, I've not seen it. So in case you have a link to it, please you can share with me in the comment section, because that's something I really want to read to understand. But based on the clips, bits and pieces of it that I have seen on different publications, I'm still yet to see how this benefits Kenya. In fact, this is one of the reasons why the aviation sector, the union and the aviation sector in Kenya are planning a protest against this whole thing. So I want to read the things that I have seen, then discuss based on that. So far, what I understand, this is what I wrote. So far, what I understand from this proposal from the Andani group and the agreement between Kenya's government and the Andani group is that this is a privately initiated proposal. So there was no public bidding. If I believe that there was a Spanish or Italian company earlier this year, there was either one of these European companies anyway. After looking through the deal, they suggested one of their suggestions was that the for the government to get full value for money, this should be um, publicly bidded, so anybody can come in to bid so that they can manage the airport. But instead of the government to follow that route, the government decided agreed on this privately initiated proposal from the Andani group. In fact, one of the things that I was even wondering is that why is Ruto's government, why are they trying to make this thing so fast? Hurry, 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 let's make it fast, as if the people cannot calm down to think about it. I even think that based on the things I have seen so far, Ruto, they should have made this, they should have held a referendum on it, let the people vote. What do people think? Because the airport is a public asset. It's not a private asset. It's a public asset. I even Kenya, certain point, there was a time that there was a fire. I believe there was a fire in the airport. Kenya had to take a loan to after the fire happened. Kenya had to take a loan to rebuild and renovate and the rest of it. So if the public is going to be paying that loan, why is the public not allowed to vote to say, do you want this deal to go on with Andani Group or not? But no, it was just agreed behind closed doors. Okay, so that's that. The second thing I noticed is that the improvements that the Andani Group is going to undertake in the airport is going to be financed from revenue earned from from increased airport fees from airlines and other users. So apparently, the Andani Group is going to increase airport fees from the airlines that use the airport and other users. It's also going to be financed from money raised from managing other existing airport facilities. So, in essence, the airport facilities that already exist, not the one they are going to build later, that already exist, they are, so the money that Andani Group is going to raise from that, from managing that, will be used to finance this whole thing. Then thirdly, money from increased fees from other airport tenants. So they are going to, so the tenants, other airport tenants that use the airport, they are going to increase their fees, like the rent and the rest of it. That's how they are going to get it. Now my question is, and I also believe that this thing is causing, so Andani is going to be bringing in one point something billion dollars to the table. Now my question is, if this is how, if these three areas is how the Andani Group intends to earn revenue to manage the airports, why is the government not doing it? Why do they need Andani? And if they need Andani because of the 1 point, is it 1.5? I'll find the exact figure and I'll put it on the screen. But I know it's over $1 billion. If they need Andani because of the $1 billion plus that Andani is bringing, now my question is, how much does this government in a year make from running that airport, this Jomo Kenyatta International Airport? Now, if this $1 billion plus and Danny is bringing is for 30 years, how much does if the government is running this airport for 30 years, how much is the government going to raise? Because now I'm wondering the need for Andani. Like I said before, I have not seen the full proposal, so I'm just having this conversation based on the different publications I have read, the different reports I have read, and the things that they mentioned in it. So in that instance, how is this in the interest of Kenya? What does Kenya get from the deal? Because the people and Adani, to the best of my knowledge, is not going to take up the debt that was taken to renovate the airport after the fire, and probably even debt that they used to build the airport. And Adani is not going to take up that debt to pay it. So it's still the people of Kenya, the taxpayers of Kenya, and the government of Kenya who are going to keep paying that debt. So what is Andani bringing to the table other than this over $1 billion they're bringing in the initial stage? What else are they bringing? Because the government is likely going to make more than that in the 30 years of Andani running this thing. So how does this benefit Kenya? So another thing that I find very interesting is that there's already protection in place for Adani just in case the Kenyan government in the middle of the whole thing pulls out from the deal. and Danny is going to get substantial money from it. But I have not seen any protection in place in case maybe 3 years down the line, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and Danny pulls out of the deal. I have not seen any protection for the people of Kenya. I haven't seen it. So how is it okay to give protection in this deal to Andani, but it's not okay to give protection in this deal to Kenya, except maybe there's a protection in place for Kenya. Like I said, I have not seen the full deal, the full proposal. It's funny. Why was this not publicly bidded on? Why didn't Ruto make this a public bid? Why was it behind closed doors? And why is it that the full proposal is not easy to find? I took time to look for it. I have not seen it. Maybe it's somewhere, like I said, if you have seen it, please share the link with me so that I can look at it. But why is it so difficult to find this deal for the people of Kenya to be able to, and other Africans like myself? Why is it not so easy to find so that we can look at it to see how does this thing benefit Kenya? Why is everything so concealed? I don't know. Now I don't want to use this episode to talk about all the controversies that are surrounding Andani because there's tax evasion, there's cronyism, they've accused him, even in his native country of India. There's a lot of people who have pushed back against his way of doing business. I don't want to go and have that conversation. Like I said, my business is Kenya. I don't mind working with anybody. I'm the same person who told you. I got a lot of pushback on that subject. But some weeks ago, I told you that I don't have an issue with the way President Faye in Senegal is trying to continue, like the way he's still continuing business relations with France, and he's not abruptly cutting off ties with France. I told you I don't like because Senegal, they still need to do business. My own is let's keep doing business and making money in Africa. So I don't have an issue with that. So by now you should tell that I am pro business. I like doing business. I'm so pro business, especially for African countries, because we can't say because I'm mad at you, I'm not going to do business with you. Then we lose that money from that area. So I'm fine. I'm okay with working with everybody. But if you're working with everybody, we should be able to clearly see and easily see how the deal that any African country is undertaking with whether it's another country or private investors, we have to be able to clearly see how it's in the interest of the said African country, in this case Kenya. I have not seen it. And based on the things I have seen, Kenya is left carrying the bag in every area. Kenya took loan to um, work on that airport, and then is not taking up that loan repayment. And then is bringing, based on what I have seen, and then is bringing over $1 billion. How much does Kenya already make from that airport in a year? This deal is for 30 years. How much does Kenya make from that airport in 30 years? If Adani is bringing this initial 1 point how many billion? Ruto, when Ruto was speaking about it, he said he wants to be competitive in the East African market, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we've looked at the airports that currently on the undertaking in Ethiopia with Chinese investors. We have clearly seen that one, how it benefits Ethiopia. We've seen it. We've also seen the one in Rwanda with Qatar. Yes, I believe it's Qatar. And it's not just Qatar taking over the airport. No, it's shared between the government of Rwanda and the government of Qatar. We've seen it. So why is it this one? Why is this one so hidden? We cannot have easy access to it. And I'm worried. Why I'm even really worried is the way he's trying to make this thing fast, 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 fast. If something is really clean and something is really fine, you should not be trying to rush it. You should be able to let the people of Kenya should debate the matter. Why are there not be debates? Why is there no? Why is the proposal not easily accessible? Why are they trying to hurry it through the system? All these are the things that are sending alarm bells ringing to me. All these things are red flags, and I'm really worried. I'm really worried. Like I said, based on what I have seen, there is no protection for Kenya in case Adani decides to dump the deal down the line. No protection for Kenya, but there's protection for Adani. This is a critical public infrastructure, it's a public asset. It's not Ruto's asset. The airport is not Ruto's asset. The airport is for the people of Kenya. So it's like they're selling your property, they're not telling you. If that thing is going on, if maybe someone sells your property without your knowledge, it's called a stolen good. It's not. It will be in the court of law. It will be given back to you. It will be given back to you. So why is Ruto handling this airport as if it is private business? It's not Ruto's airport. It's airport for Kenya. So the people of Kenya should have a say as to what happens to their airports. The people of Kenya should have a say. There was no referendum. There was nobody voted for it, whether pro, for or against. Nobody voted. I did not see public debates. It was not a public bidding. It was private. They handled everything behind closed doors. It wasn't a public bidding. A public asset was not put up for public bidding. No. Which businesses in Kenya did they ask? Do you want to manage the airport for the government? You should start with your people. Actually, it belongs to Kenyans. Which of them did Ruto say, does it, who wants to manage it? No, he just took it to outsiders. A public asset. Like I said, all these things are red flags for me. I am really concerned about this airport, but I will keep following the story. If anything develops, I'll let you know. Also, like I mentioned in the beginning part of this segment, the aviation sector, the union of the aviation sector is going to protest it because I think I even saw, I'm not sure, but I believe I saw one of the reasons they're protesting because they said they're going to lay off workers. So they're going to lay off Kenyans, they'll fire Kenyans, they will sack Kenyans who are working within that sector. And then maybe some people who are not Kenyans might come into. I don't know. The whole thing is looking very, it's looking very hidden to me. I'm not seeing the full story. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you have more information about it? Please share with me. I'm really serious. I want to see this deal, the full proposal. Let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with more people so that this message can reach a wider audience as we come together to build our amazing continent. One thing that I have learned by following geopolitics for some time now is that you don't send someone out and the person stays out. You always find a way to come back in because what you have or where you are is in their interest. So they want to find ways to still push their influence and their interest in your region. I'm saying this because after the setback in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger that France has experienced in the past few years, France has still decided it must keep pushing its influence in Africa. No problem. As France is pushing its interest in Africa, it's in Africa's responsibility to also push its own interests in this continent and even around the world. So why am I saying this? I just saw a report in Africa Intelligence. Is it Africa Intelligence or Africa Intel? One of it though, but it's a French publication focused on France policy in Africa, right? So this publication mentioned that the government of France is looking to come back into Africa, but this time in Madagascar. They want to set up a military base in Madagascar. Hmm. Now, the intended location for this military base is the old port of Diego Suarez. I believe that's the name in Madagascar. Now, if you look at the map of the world, I just took my time to look at the map. If France can get a military base in Madagascar, France warships have access to the Indian Ocean. And if you look in geopolitics now, quite all right, the game is between the United States is looking for ways to counter China, is also looking for ways to counter um, Russia. But there's a country that is gradually becoming a world power, and the United States may be looking to counter in the near future. And that country is India. And if you look at this Madagascar, I believe India already has a military base in Madagascar. And so, if you look at Madagascar, Madagascar gives these French warships access to the Indian Ocean. And now, France, if you follow geopolitics, you already know that France, quite right, they come to Africa to say we are the boss, we are the boss, we are the boss. But France is really just a vassal state of the United States. So, whatever France does, look at it not just in France interest, but particularly in the interest of the United States. So, right here now, in Madagascar, United States may decide, maybe down the line or something, I don't know, but may decide to use that for posturing against India. Because if you but now India is supposedly US ally, but if you look at what just happened this past week, you find out that uh, after all, one of US government officials one time he said to be, I'm paraphrasing, but to be to be America's enemy is dangerous, but to be America's friend is fatal. He said that. So right now it's supposed to be like India and United States are friends. But if you see what just happened with Bangladesh, you understand that US does not have no permanent friend, no permanent foe. Because the government of Bangladesh, this lady that was just ousted, I've forgotten her name, but this woman that was just ousted, she's pro India. So India needs her there for India's own influence in the Indian subcontinent. But instead, she just told us that it's the United States that kicked her out of power because US wanted a an island and then she refused to give it to the Americans, so they kicked her out to bring in, and then the person who is coming in is pro-America. I want to see if that person is going to give that island to the United States. That's what I'm waiting to see. So anyway, but that happened in Bangladesh and no one consulted India. The Americans didn't consult India to know what do you think. They just went ahead and did it. So if you look at that in geopolitics, you know that this base in Madagascar now that France is trying to put up is going to be America down the line can leverage it to posture against India. Well, I want to talk about Africa. So well, it seems that these authorities in Madagascar, the government of Madagascar is trying to get more funding like um, from France so that they can, because some of the things I was seeing as though they're trying to get more concessions and funding from France to undertake some development project to the country in return for allowing France to put military base in the port of Diego Suarez. And also I believe that the president of Madagascar has French citizenship. Anyway, I just wanted you to know what's going on in this area. But then I also want to mention that in as much as we look at these military bases setting up, coming to Madagascar, maybe other parts of Africa, external military bases, I also want you to understand that with that military base, there's also a corresponding, because military base, we look at it like for war, physical, kinetic war, but there's also a corresponding information war that goes on. I said that because recently France mentioned their setting up of French Africa Command, just like US Africa Command. There's going to be a French Africa Command, but the French Africa Command is not going to be so focused on um, military bases. It's going to focus more on information warfare, which in essence is propaganda. So France has realized after what happened in West Africa, France has realized that they are the people of Africa are sick of France. And that's the truth. The people of Africa are sick of France. In fact, if you see the way like, when mentioned earlier that I in the previous segment that I was supporting President Faye, that he shouldn't completely cut off France, right? Even if you want to get rid of the French military base, don't just completely sever ties with France. You can still work and do business with France to make money from France. I said that, and that is one conversation that I had on this show. I got serious pushback. Africans are sick of it. They said France go. So clearly, even from just my comment section in that video, you can see that France has lost influence in Africa. Africans are sick of France. France has realized that and they're trying to launder their image. Not the way they do money laundering. France is trying to do image laundering. It's trying to launder its image. And so with this setup of France Africa Command, they want to do propaganda to change the perception of France in the mind of Africans. I want to give an example of how this kind of propaganda works. Sometime last, no, sometime this year, I saw it was a conversation people were having. And so one of the things that they mentioned in that I thought was very interesting that was mentioned in that conversation was a podcast I was listening to. One of the things that was mentioned in that conversation is that United States in Africa was paying had a program where the US was paying journalists to write bad stories about China. So for every I didn't like I said someone mentioned it, so it's not like I read it in a report or something. Someone mentioned it. I'm just saying what the person said. So these projects, for every bad article you write about China in Africa, US was going to pay $1,000. And that is some good money, especially, and they're paying in dollars. So you know that I'm looking at it right now in Nigeria, the $1 is about 1,600 naira, which is really, really, really frightening. I'm telling you, it just happened under this Tinubu regime. It did not used to be like this. Or is it, as I speak, is 1,600 naira for $1. So if a Nigerian journalist has access to these funds, that means $1,000. I make 1.6 million naira per bad article written about China. I can I can just say my career is to be writing bad articles about China. My career, I just write, I do smell pieces about China. I'm saying that because I need you to understand how this propaganda works. You will see the article is coming from a Nigerian journalist, like I mentioned in the first segment, how they're trying to destroy Dangote Refinery, and they try to pay Nigerian journalists $500 to write bad things about Dangote Refinery, so that the Nigerian government can use that as a pretext to destroy Dangote's refinery. Do you get me? So anyway, you will read the article and say, "Oh, this is not written by an American, it's written by a Nigerian." Wow, so that means the person is China is really doing bad things. So you're reading that. I can decide to do 10 bad articles about China in a week. That gives me $10,000 in a week. $10,000 in a week is like 16 million naira a week. Wow, that's a lot of money, though. Hey, this was good of Nazareth. That's a lot of money. So if I do 10 bad articles about China in a week, that gives me $10,000 a week. In a month, that is $40,000. How many Nigerians are earning 40,000? And I don't mean just like, I mean even maybe even top even executives. How many of them are doing $40,000 a month? And I just have to sit in my house to be writing bad things about China. This is how propaganda works. You would read it and just say, so now you're just having bad opinion about China, bad opinion about China, bad opinion about China. You don't know who is paying for it. The thing may not even be completely factual. It may just be skewed story just to paint China bad. So now Africans will not like China and they'll be saying, if you don't like China, maybe you're not going to see America in a better light. This is the way propaganda works. I need you to understand. This is the way propaganda works. So I said that because France is telling us that it's setting up its France Africa Command. And one of the things that France Africa Command will do will be engaged in information space, information warfare, aka propaganda. Propaganda. So at this point, be ready to see stories that will paint France in a very good light in the interest of in several African countries. And in these African countries, say maybe like in Burkina Faso, they may now be painting the military in a bad light. After all, they just tried to assassinate um, Ibrahim Traore again, like last week. Just again, they just tried to assassinate him again. We see the way they are. You see, there's some stories that are coming out in Mali about they're not the government, but Mali's military. And remember that the military in Mali is the government in Mali is a military regime. So if they paint the military bad, they're effectively trying to paint the government bad. You need to be very careful. You need to be very careful. Still showing, I want to give an example of how propaganda works. I'm still going to use United States and China. During the pandemic, United States, the Pentagon, and the see, sometimes when they tell you propaganda, you think propaganda is just normal. Propaganda is a military arm. It's the Pentagon that handles propaganda in the United States. So anyway, the Pentagon engaged in a propaganda effort within Asia, particularly countries who are friendly with China. And the propaganda was an anti-vaccine propaganda. They had several social media handles, many of them in countries like Indonesia, Philippines, and the rest of them. And these social media, and these were probably bot handles or bot accounts, not like real people were handling it. They were bot accounts. What were the accounts publishing? Bad news about China, vaccines from China. Bad news about vaccines from China. That was what the Pentagon was engaged in. So that the people will say, oh, anything, this China vaccine, no, we don't want to buy, we don't want to take vaccines from China. Give us American vaccines. In fact, the Pentagon was doing this while the US government was fighting Americans for their anti vaccine stance. YouTube was removing videos of Americans that were questioning the vaccines. American questioning American vaccines. YouTube was removing their videos. American government was fighting Americans that were questioning the vaccines in the United States. But as they were fighting Americans saying do not question vaccines, they were instigating the questioning of Chinese vaccines in Asia. Propaganda. Propaganda. Africa, you need to be very careful. Stories that are painting, see, particularly painting Russia, China, painting them bad. I'm not saying they are good. I'm not saying Russians are good. I'm not saying the Chinese are good. But I'm saying sometimes it may be coming from external players who are funding these journalists within the continent. So when you see any story, take your time to research it. France has told us they are setting up France Africa Command that is going to be engaged in information warfare. So be expecting to see stories that will paint France in a good light in Africa. I'm not saying France is not good though. Maybe France is the best country in the world. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it is not true. France is likely the best country in the world. But if they are engaged in this thing, the battle is for your mind. You need to be very careful. You need to be very careful. Take your time to research stories. Take your time to research articles. Take your time to read between the lines. Because sometimes you think an article is saying something, but it's not really saying that thing. It's just playing with words in a way that you cannot catch it and say, you this is what you explicitly said. There is an ongoing battle in Africa. I said that in one of the previous episodes of the Amanda Show. There's an ongoing battle in Africa. The battle is for the minds of Africans. Because those people who you have been kicking out and you say it's bad, it's bad, it's bad. I'm not saying they are bad, I'm not saying they are good, but you were kicking them out for a reason. They are coming back. They will not go out and stay out. They will find a way to come back. Because in their mind, it's in their interest to be on this continent. Their interest is tied to this continent. So you need to be very careful of the stories you parrot. All right, so what do you think? France is coming back to Africa with another military base, this time in Madagascar. And as they are setting up a military base in Madagascar, they are ensuring to have France propaganda running 247 across the continent. Let me know what you think about this development in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends and your family members so we can reach more people across the continent. That's it. That's all we can cover in this episode of the Amanda Show. From these outsiders trying to frustrate the Dangote Refinery to this whole Jomo Kenyatta Airport, Ruto's government effectively giving it over to the Adani Group of India for 30 years with no clear benefits to the people of Kenya. I've not really seen that benefit. And also coming back to France intended military base in Madagascar, France information war in across the continent. Let me know what you think about all these stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this video as always, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with your friends so that we can reach and your family members too. So we can reach more people across the continent. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in the next episode of The Amanda Show. Bye bye.